Folks, welcome back to the channel. Before anybody asks, yes, there will be a full card breakdown. I just wanted to get this one out early. I wanted to spend a little bit more time breaking down this matchup, kind of giving people some context on the main event of UFC 309. So I know somebody's still going to comment, where's the full card breakdown, when they see this video and they're not even going to watch the first 3 seconds. It's coming. Just getting this out on Monday. Tuesday, the full card breakdown comes out, as it always does. But let's go ahead and break down this matchup. We've got Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic for the undisputed heavyweight championship. Realistically, it's very disputed, but they're going to call it the undisputed heavyweight championship. I say it's very disputed because Tom Aspinall has a belt as well, and neither Jon Jones nor Tom Aspinall beat the lineal champion for it. So who's to say which belt is more legitimate? I don't know. You decide for yourself, all right? But we're here to break down Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic because Aspinall, realistically, even though he's a backup fighter, is probably not going to be fighting on this card, regardless of what happens, whether somebody pulls out or not. I'm pretty sure that's not happening. But here we go. We're going to break down Jon Jones, Stipe Miocic. Now, this is an interesting fight because Jon Jones is the guy everybody says is the greatest of all time. There are a lot of asterisks next to that. Of course, he's failed a lot of drug tests, PEDs, cocaine, things like that. That has caused him to have some blemishes on his career. Also, he has that one DQ loss, but whatever, that doesn't really matter that much. So, considered the greatest of all time by many people, although there are some caveats to it. Stipe Miocic, on the other hand, typically regarded as the greatest heavyweight of all time, has wins over some of the best to ever do the darn thing. Wins over Francis Ngannou, also a loss, but still a win over Francis Ngannou. 2 wins over Daniel Cormier. Then again, so does Jon Jones, but at heavyweight. But Stipe has beaten pretty much everybody at heavyweight that you can beat, right? Or at least during the time that he was in the game. The thing is, he hasn't fought in a long time. In fact, he hasn't fought since he lost the title to Francis Ngannou back in, what was that, 2020 by now? Was that 4 years ago? I think it might have been 4 years ago. Memory is hazy on the date, but yeah, I think it was like 4 years ago. Either way, Miocic, he's 3-2 in his last 5 fights, but that's a little bit different than what we're getting from Jon Jones, because Jon Jones only had 1 heavyweight fight. So yes, Jones is 5-0 in his last 5. Only one of those is at heavyweight. So take that for what you will. This is a different weight class than Jones is used to. Now, we've got some of the preliminary information out of the way. Let's talk about their skill sets, right? Stipe Miocic. Now, a lot of people are just counting this guy out right away because Jon Jones is great, Stipe is old, whatever. I get it, but let's look at the skills. Let's look at the skills and see where Stipe maybe has some possibilities to get this done, or if the general consensus is correct that Jon Jones is just going to walk right through him and just run him over. I think it's going to be a little more competitive than that. I don't think Stipe is getting run over. I think we got some stuff here that's going to make it a little bit more compelling. Okay, so Stipe Miocic, he's a very solid striker. Now, predominantly that's from boxing, right? He's got good boxing skills. Miocic is one of those wrestle boxers kind of thing, right? He has the wrestling and the boxing that go together very well. He will throw leg kicks, don't get me wrong. He has a very heavy leg kick. We've seen it to good effect, but typically wrestle boxing, it was a thing that was extremely popular during the time that both of these guys were in their heyday, because Jones isn't exactly the youngest fighter either anymore. He's not old by any means compared for heavyweight, especially compared to Stipe, because Stipe is over 40. But point is, for Miocic, when he was earlier on in his career on the come up, wrestle boxers were the guys that were winning championships, which is where Stipe Miocic gets his championship, former championship. The guy feints very well, and that helps him a lot with his boxing. He rarely overcommits to his strikes as well. So when this guy is going out there, he's doing what he needs to do. He's feinting, setting everything up, throwing those big heavy leg kicks. He's moving his head well. That's what you like to see. He's got good footwork. In fact, some of the best footwork at heavyweight, I would say. He circles off extremely well. All this is awesome. This is all great stuff for him. Puts in good boxing combinations. But the thing he does not get enough credit for is body work. The way he was able to work the body, both of the fights that he won against Daniel Cormier, top tier stuff right there. He made Cormier just keep getting those hands lower and lower and lower because he just kept ripping that body shot. Now, if he's able to do that on Jones, it's going to be a little bit different story because Cormier and Jones have like the opposite body type. Long, slender, lean, super long arms, like I'm saying, against, the opposite being Cormier, short arms, kind of like I guess the opposite of lean, chubby, we'll say. Um, so that's a different story, but the way he works the body, he's done it in other fights as well. It was to great effect against Cormier, who's one of the better fighters that have ever been in the UFC. Now, with Stipe Miocic, something that we also kind of forget is the way that this guy has power both moving forward and backwards. When he's stepping backwards and throws that big heavy cross, that's one of his best moves. And he's able to drop guys with that power shot. The thing is, when he's moving backwards in this fight, he might be too far out of range because Jon Jones is so long and rangy. Now, we saw Stipe Miocic earlier in his UFC career struggle with the skyscraper, Stefan Struve, who, if you remember him, he was extremely tall. I mean, obviously, Jon Jones isn't that tall, but Stefan Struve was like 6'11 or something like that, 6'10, 6'11. It was something ridiculous. The dude was massive, and Stipe had a little bit of trouble with the range. Now, that was earlier in his career. Give him a little bit of a pass for that. But if this fight takes place at boxing range, Stipe Miocic really is a live underdog in this fight because of that. If this takes place at boxing range, he needs to get into boxing range where he can work his leg kicks in tight, his heavy leg kicks, where he can get in there, rip the body, where he can land big, heavy shots. Because realistically, if Jon Jones has one area of his game that is his worst area, it's the boxing. And Stipe is darn good there. So we've got that out of the way. We've covered where Stipe's big advantage would take place, boxing range. And he's good. I mean, like I said, he's a good striker overall, but I think that's what he wants to do in this fight. In the grappling department, I think this fight is going to be close in the grappling because of two things. One, both of these guys have great takedown defense, but Stipe Miocic, something that I really like for him is he's very good at getting back to his feet when he is taken down. And then also, if you try to back this guy up against the cage and take him down there, he uses the cage extremely well to circle off. It's kind of the old style of defending takedowns against the cage. You'll see some of the older fighters do it. Guys like, I just dropped my marker, guys like Stephen Thompson, guys like Stipe Miocic, guys like Benson Henderson, guys like that. They use the cage. I'm throwing some old time names out there, but they use the cage. I'm using this in my cage wall here, where when they get there, they get that overhook and they circle off by pushing the opponent's face into the cage, essentially. He'll do a lot of that to defend takedowns. He does it very well. You don't see that as much in, the modern takedown defense against the cage, especially at lower divisions, but in heavyweight, I think that's going to still be a thing that he can use very well. He's got very good takedowns offensively. His single leg is his best takedown, but he can chain together different attempts, work the singles, the doubles, what have you, get to the body lock and go from there. But he also has the ability to time his takedowns underneath strikes. His reactive takedowns are probably the best part of his takedown game because he'll get guys throwing with him, throwing hands, and then as soon as he sees that timing and he goes, oh, there it is, drops levels, gets the takedown, and this is usually where he goes for the single leg. And then if that single leg fails, that's when he'll switch to a double leg or what have you. Brutal ground and pound. Dude gets on top. The elbows are nasty. The hammer fists are nasty. He'll use that to advance his position, often getting just a half guard. But he'll, if he ends up in your guard, whatever, he works to get to that half guard position and just obliterate people with that ground and pound. And he picks his shots well. He's not just wasting energy throwing wild shots on the ground. He's doing a good job at picking the shots, landing effectively, but also powerfully. Also, if he does end up on the bottom, he does have the ability to reverse position on his opponents. It's because he doesn't just really accept bottom position very often. Maybe in one or two fights we've seen it, but rarely do you get that. When you look at Stipe Miocic from his back, he's not there very long. Bounces back to his feet or works to reverse the position. So that's what you like to see. Stipe Miocic is a very skilled fighter, but like we said, he hasn't fought in a long time. He is getting older. He's fighting Jon Jones, as you know, and let's break down Jon Jones now. So this guy, Jon Jones, is an extremely effective striker as well. Solid kicks. The variety of kicks. His kicking game is going to be the thing that he needs to use in this matchup entirely. Because like I said, if this gets to boxing range, Jones could be in some trouble. But with the kicks, he has the oblique kick, which he uses to great effect to stop his opponent's momentum coming forward. That's where he kind of kicks the inside of the leg there and kind of causes the knee to buckle a little bit. That's going to shut down your forward pressure. And for Stipe, he needs that forward pressure to be able to get into boxing range against Jon Jones. If Stipe can do that, if he can get in there, like I said, he'll give Jones some problems. But these kicks are the things stopping it. He also has a very good stabbing style front kick where he just kind of, sticks that foot forward like a spear. and jams that into his opponent, and that helps keep that range as well because Jones got them long legs, so he can stick that front kick right down the middle, hit his opponent without them, being able to cross that distance and land their hands. So for Jon Jones, these are going to be two of the things that really help him maintain that kicking range, which is what he's going to want in the striking. If it's grappling, it's different, but in the striking range, he's going to want to be at kicking range. He's got a really good fake roundhouse kick to a knee stomp, where he'll like kind of throw that kick through and then just stomp right down on the top of the knee. It's dirty, but it's effective. Works really well. And he times his kicks to interrupt his opponent's forward pressure, and he does that extremely well. His opponent's coming in forward with a big, heavy combination. Jones is going to be like, nah, we're going to stop that with a kick. We're going to stop that with the oblique kick. We're going to stop that with whatever he's got to do, the front kick, whatever he's got to do. And he can kick to all levels, good question mark kick, things like that as well. So Jon Jones using the kicks, that's where he needs to be. He also has a good elbow that he uses either as a step-in elbow, but also if an opponent gets past the kicking range, he can use that elbow as a stop that kind of brings his opponents to a halt and crashes their momentum, right? It stops the momentum and then lets Jon Jones hit that, either go back at space or get into the tie clinch, which brings us to his next skill that I really like. We're going to go back to the striking in a minute, but it does bring us to the tie clinch. He's got good trips from here, very good knees from here, and he controls his opponent's head extremely well, getting that deep tie plum and uses the elbows in tight, things like that. But also, when he's using this clinch, he'll often get it off of throwing an elbow. But when we go back to looking at the striking, it's a lot of times set up by his takedown threat. When you look at the fact that Jon Jones is such a good wrestler, he's able to feint a takedown, and then that will set up either his cross, which is about the only punch he really throws confidently. He'll throw some other punches here and there, but he's mostly a kicker. But he'll throw that cross very confidently off that fake takedown. And then also it sets up that spinning elbow where he'll fake that takedown and then kind of come up with that elbow, which is a very unorthodox thing that you've got to be extremely athletic to do. Jon Jones is extremely athletic, so that makes sense. In the grappling department, like I said, that takedown threat is there for Jon Jones. He's a very good grappler, and if he gets on top of Miocic, it'd be interesting to see if Miocic is able to get back up like he has in the past against most opponents, because Jon Jones, he's a gosh darn good wrestler, right? He's got a variety of different takedowns, but his trips and his throws, like he has kind of a Greco-Roman style of wrestling, and the throws from like his upper body throws from the wrestling clinch, those are the type of things that are going to give Stipe some trouble in this fight, I do believe, because the takedown defense is different with its throw or against a throw as opposed to just a standard, wrestling style takedown that Miocic has had to defend most of the time in his career. Jon Jones' defense in the takedown is also nearly perfect. Like the guy's got like a 95 or something like that % takedown defense. That's just off the top of my head. If that's not accurate, it's close. He's got a very good sprawl, and that's what makes his takedown defense so good, because he gets that sprawl and he goes deep with it and makes his opponents really have to cover a lot of range. So by the time they're getting to the hips, he's already, since they've had to cover so much range, able to get those hips back, get that deep sprawl, and it causes his opponents a lot of problems. Another thing I really like from Jon Jones is the ground and pound. It's extremely effective. He's got very good elbows, and he can also go to his front chokes from either the ground and pound, where his opponents are trying to get up into him to cause some safety there, where like you're hitting the guys whatever, and they're trying to get their head up to your body, so that way they're safer, I guess, because it's hard to punch somebody like this. Well, what he does then is switches off to a front choke, whether it be like a Darce, Anaconda, whatever. He can do that, but he also can do that off of his sprawl. He can sprawl deep, go for the choke there. He's extremely skilled in that aspect. Now, the things that set Jon Jones apart from other fighters typically is his extreme athleticism. He has very good fight IQ, and his reaction time is second to none. So this guy has a lot of physical and I don't want to say mental advantages, because the guy's kind of like dumb in situations. I mean, you got to be really dumb to do some of the stuff that this guy does. But when it comes to a fight, he's very smart. Jon Jones is extremely smart in a fight, where basic common knowledge, he sacrificed that skill tree to go to fight IQ, and it's paid off really well for him. The guy's doing really well. I think Jon Jones has a lot more advantages in this fight than Stipe Miocic, but like I said, Stipe can make this really close if he can get this into boxing range consistently. I just don't know how often he can get into boxing range. Unfortunately, I have to go with Jon Jones in this matchup. This is a good fight. This is a fight that's probably better than it looks on paper. to the naked eye. If you're just looking at Tapology and you see Stipe's 3-2 in his last 5 fights, he hasn't fought in ages. His last fight was a knockout loss to a guy that's not even with the company anymore. That doesn't look good. But when you look at everything, put it all together, and you break it down, it's a little bit closer fight than that. I understand people that are going to be rooting for Stipe. I'm rooting for Stipe. I hope I get this pick wrong. I don't really like Jon Jones because I think he's kind of a horrible human being. But that's not the point. We're picking winners here. We're trying to. I think Jon Jones is probably going to get it done because this isn't a fairy tale, and good things don't necessarily happen to good people. You assume Stipe is a good person based on all the things we know about him. Just how it works. But guys, thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate you tuning in. Another video probably is popping up on screen, and I would appreciate if you watch that as well if you haven't already. Thank you guys for tuning in again, like I said, and I will see you in the next breakdown. Be sure to check all those out, and the full card breakdown is coming soon if you haven't watched that already.